So this does raise an interesting question. How much does the author's intent matter? Because
A lot.
came alive and says, I don't know.
But ultimately, the book the story kind of failed in what the author was trying to do.
Some of my favorite reading experiences, I knew nothing about the book going into it.
You don't need to know outside of the book about the author to focus on while reading the book, what is the author intending?
That monkey point rocked me, and I like getting rocked.
So I have a question for you guys, because you said your initial things that you said you didn't like about it was basically you didn't like Foth and what his decisions as a character, and kind of like part of him. So I think part of him is he's drawn in way too much by Denna. Big character flaw, I think. And you said he was boring, and I think he's a very interesting character because he just kind of is over the top and just will go for whatever he decides on. But I'd say other characters are what I'd bring up as like bad characters that aren't good or interesting, maybe in a certain way, would be like or characters that aren't good is like Locta and Logan Ninefingers. It's like they're clearly not good characters, not good example to follow. What's the difference there for you guys?
Character voice, personality, and basically commanding of a room. Quoth has none of these things.
A lot of it too is with Quoth. The issue is Patrick Rothfuss is okay. I don't want to project too much, but like the moral of the story is that he's correct in his twisted worldview. That's why I integrally don't like it. Like he says in interviews that Denna was based on somebody he knew in real life. It felt like he was projecting through Quoth's character his feelings toward this lost love, and he didn't get over it. So sorry, I'm getting into like the heats of it. But with something like Quoth, like Abercrombie, as he's writing Glockton, I was like, no, these are like despicable people who you're interested and fascinated by, versus like trying to subliminally preach like this twisted way of viewing Denna, which Denna, the way Quoth views Denna should be wrong and weird, but he then has a conversation right after like, hey, I touched you, he might have you, but you might have your lips and no, we're doing enough.
I can prove the book sucks with literally one line.
But with that scene of like, hey, you might have suckled her teats, but I still like make her laugh. And then that whole scene, and then he talks with his friends after the next chapter, is the same chapter, and he's like defending it, and like the author showing us how, oh look, this was the right thing to do. This was the message. Oh, you're gonna bring it up?
I'm gonna find it.
It's a little bit later, I think. It's very close to the end. But that's the thing. Versus when Abercrombie's writing his characters, like they're morally complex, and like you're rooting for them in some ways, but also like they're evil and they're twisted and they have some morals at some point, and it's about that. It's like what's the message attempting to be, and also what's their level of that's just part of it. But Richard, you actually gonna find it?
I found it.
Okay.
All right,
the proof.
You gotta start
the
it.
proof. The proof.
So they hated me, and it shone in their eyes when Denna wasn't looking. I would offer to buy another round of drinks, but he would insist, and I would graciously accept and thank him and smile. I have known her longer, my smile said. True, you have been inside the circle of her arms, tasted her mouth, felt the warmth of her, and that is something I have never had. But there is a part of her that is only for me. You cannot touch it, no matter how hard you might try. And after she has left you, I will still be here, making her laugh.
Oh,
my light shining in her. I will still be here long after she has forgotten your name.
Of the Wind. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. And now here's the difference. If Quoth was then presented in this way of like seeing, hey, that's like not
future
admirable.
Quoth going, that was cringe.
That was a little silly or whatever it was. It's just
he doesn't change.
Needed something more there.
Then you add on top of this of he is just the smartest, bestest person ever, and just like the woe is me of everything about him. Like it's the world is out to get him rather than rather than it mostly being his problems. Like it's him at fault.
So is that not
now,
your job?
I understand the point. A little bit of the point is his arrogance.
Yeah.
Is that is what it tries to say. The book tries to say that Quoth's main character flaw is arrogance. I think it fails at that fundamentally, mainly because where he gets in trouble, and he's supposed to be arrogant, where the teacher actually is abusing him and looking down on him and challenging him and like bullying him, and he stands up for himself. Oh, if only you didn't stand up for yourself. Or with his other bully of like, oh, he shouldn't have antagonized the bully. He's getting bullied and he stood up for himself. That's not arrogance. Like, that's a good thing. It's not like, give us actually something of his arrogance really getting in the way of he did not, like, he really shouldn't have been so full of himself or too proud to actually, like, that's a genuine flaw. That's my problem. Every instance of supposed arrogance is not that arrogant. It's actually just having a modicum amount of spine.
Is his opinion of what he has with Denna not rooted in arrogance?
Yeah, but I also don't think it's a particular character flaw. That's a main thing is I disagree with the author. I think the author sees that as not particularly a character flaw.
So this does
I
raise
see
an
that.
interesting question. How much does the author's intent matter? Because like if Gene
A
Wolfe
lot.
came alive and said,
Yeah.
I don't know, if Gene Wolfe came alive and said, actually Severian is a good guy, that doesn't change the fact that Book of the New Sun is a masterpiece. I just think Gene Wolfe is wrong.
How much
If
time do you
Patrick
have for
Rothfuss,
the
and I
death of the author stuff? Because we are very much anti-death of the author.
Yeah.
Now,
I don't think we
reason
have
for
too
that
much
is
time, but you guys should come back on the show. We could talk
we
about
should.
that.
I would love to do a round because we had literally a five and a half hour long discussion on our Patreon with just talking death of the author with them. Because we know a lot of people disagree. It's fascinating to talk about, but even just keeping it textually based too, like with the Name of the Wind, like what would lead us to believe that that's not the message of the story?
That the arrogance
I think
is
book
a
two has at
flaw?
least 3 moments that I can think of off the top of my head where it's like there's the quote of Ben, his teacher, saying, "There's nothing more dangerous than a clever, thoughtless person." Koth's ego and thoughtlessness does bite him in the ass several times in book two. The only time I can think of in book one is when he takes the candle into the library. That's more so just him getting tricked than him being thoughtless. Book two has at least 3 clear examples of that clever but thoughtlessness that bites him in the ass.
We only read book one, but also with book one of it's more so just his view of Denna as the crux of it and their relationship, because this is like a love or not love story, however you want to word it. This romance between the two of them is like people hate on Denna. No, don't hate on Denna. It's not her fault. She's it's Quoth's view of Denna.
Dude, Koth is an incel for sure.
Yeah.
He's absolutely this incel cuck-ass character.
Yeah,
And
I can't
I
believe
do
that like
think
he had a fella and he
people
was
don't understand that hate Dinah as a result.
Yeah. No,
But
don't
this
blame,
is kind
don't
of what
blame
we're
her.
talking about. Where, like, is Koth a flawed character or is he correct? I think he's a flawed character. Even if Patrick Rothfuss thinks he's correct, fuck what Patrick Rothfuss thinks.
Wouldn't it be so nice if you could outline your novel, organize your world building, write your book, format your EPUB, and publish it on the same website? Well, you're in luck. Campfire is the all-in-one platform for authors, offering both a full-featured writing software and KDP-style publishing, but with 80% royalties and none of the predatory practices you're stuck with when you publish with a monopoly. Campfire's tools feature versatile panels that make creating characters as simple as moving note cards around a corkboard, only much more organized, convenient, and without the inherent dangers of working with thumbtacks. Its wide range of tools include templates for creating settings, a magic system builder, and more, all of which are connected to a word processor that makes it easy to reference your notes as you write. When you're ready, publish your book on Campfire's ebook shop and include artwork, world-building notes, short stories, and more for readers who want to explore your setting in more detail. Try Campfire today at campfirewriting.com and bring your book to life.
Sorry that we hate it so much. It's a passionate dislike, at least. You know, at least we have
No,
an
it's
opinion
fun,
on it
yeah.
versus it'd be worse if we were
Yeah.
mid. At least it's
Right.
This is a great
Hey,
debate. You guys
yeah.
are wrong, but it's a fun debate.
it is very fun. You know, clearly majority of people love the book. It's well written. Like you guys said, the music scene's incredible. It's how do you view the core themes, Quoth's character? How much do you take? I guess for us, we didn't even know. We don't know who Patrick Rothfuss is. Just reading the book, we went like, oh, the author is trying to do this because we see it by what we're reading. So it's. Yeah.
Especially with having the framed narrative. There would maybe be more wiggle room if it wasn't a framed narrative. And it was actually just like, okay, it's just a flawed character. But the fact that Quoth several times in the book does do a back and forth of like, I was really stupid at this time, and does give us commentary of how much he's changed. So like,
But he doesn't change on Denna. Yeah. Fair.
Doesn't
Yeah.
change on
No,
Denna.
that's a fair
and
point.
so
Yeah.
what am I supposed to believe? Like,
So-
I don't know.
I am curious. When did you guys read them?
Whenever a review is when I read it.
I've
So,
read
like,
it twice. I read
Right.
it first, 2022.
probably that year. I read it 24, I think. Whenever
Oh,
the review came.
2022.
Yeah. So I
Was
first
when you
read.
Yeah.
Thing is, when I first read in 2022, I liked some of it. I liked the music scenes were great. I was curious about the world building, and then I was kind of bored by the plot. I was kind of waiting for that ending. I'm like, okay, well, it's building to something. If it pays off, it pays off. I'll be happy. But then it gave me the dragon scene, and I was like, really? That's it. That's
See,
the ending I've been waiting for this whole time. Was
Wait, Nicholas, what do
incredibly
you got there?
disappointed.
He had something to
And
say.
No,
then we
that
got
you're
the
just
Dennis
wrong
scene.
about. That you're just wrong about. Like a dragon that is actually a cow that's hopped up on drugs and burns down a city is amazing, and that was super cool. And like the fact that you don't think that's cool, you're just wrong. That's
Barely
fine.
I'm
even
gonna
a
have
city.
to agree with them, actually.
Yeah,
Name of the Wind is my favorite book, but I really dislike the ending.
Ugh, no, dude.
I'm gonna
I think
say
the
We have a
dragon-
divided faction
yeah.
of fans over
I
here.
don't
What's
care-
going
I don't
on?
care about
Defend your book.
I don't care about anything. For me, it's like I would just listen, just the way he writes Quoth. I would just listen to that. Whatever. I don't care what's going on. Like I just
His
find
prose
that
is
I just
immaculate.
whatever happens turns into something super dramatic through the way it's written to me. I think that's the magic of it to me. It's like I don't care what he's going through.
Well, here's the helpful thing for rating website one day is when you look at name of the for a person like us, you would see the prose is high for us, the world is high for us, no
Yeah.
issues. I mean,
Yeah.
if anything, the prose is probably the best of the categories. But then you'd see why do we dislike it? Is look at the thematic issues, the character issues, the plot issues, the emotional
Yeah.
impact. When I'm thinking of a book, the most important stuff for me as a reader is going to be plot, themes, characters. The last two things for me is world and prose. I care the least about that. But then another reader who the most important thing to them is prose, they might love Name of the Wind. And hey, even if they like the character too, like they're going to love it way more. So that's just, for me, the prose is the icing. And I love great prose, but I love it with a good story. Which I'm sure you all love the story. I'm just like, man, the story comes first for me, and it did not. Oh,
Yeah, I'm kind of backwards
seething.
on that. I feel like I'm more character, but like character and the emotionality of the book, of what's going on in each scene. I kind of like how much is it sucking me in. I think that's like top tier for me, rather than
That makes
the
sense.
full story. Because I kind of just like I like to listen to the book, and I just want to spend like a few hundred hours with the characters. And so that's why I
That's
really
fair.
like the same thing. Like Joe Abercrombie is my favorite author, and it's just like people complain about the Blade itself as being like, it's like what's happening? They're just walking around. I don't care. I just want to hang out with Logan. I want to hang out with Glokta. I love Baez. Like it's just like I hate them, but I love them, and I just want to spend time there. That's all I care about with
Also-
the writing.
100%.
Also, everyone's wrong, and the Blade itself has a great plot. That's
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah.
But
No, I
a
disagree. I
fantastic
disagree
plot.
with that too. Yeah.
I love the plot.
Yeah.
It's the best plotted book in the
You're
first law.
yeah, okay, you're crazy. You're crazy.
The best plan.
Yeah,
I'm
Well,
not.
that is an absurd day.
I like Quoth as a character, and I'll tell you like why. Part of why he feels so believable to me. Like in that, like he makes so many mistakes and does so many dumb things, but they feel very consistent for Quoth. You know, and like I like even with Denna, I'm like, Quoth, what are you doing? But like he's consistent about it. And, like I'm mad at him for making bad decisions, but he's consistent about like making some bad decisions. You know. Like I like that. I don't know. I thought it worked for me. You know.
Onto that, the thing that took me out pretty early on was so the best section of the book for me was when Quoth was homeless. That section, and then the scenes of him playing the lute. But I like that was the most emotional scene. I was most connected with Quoth in the beginning. Did it not drag out for you a little bit that Quoth, who for how many years is homeless and fighting for his life, and apparently very smart character. Like, I understand a couple months, but the fact that he's able to whip himself into shape and like within an afternoon, he's got money in his pocket and he's off to school and he's like, he figured out everything.
He's broke
And
as hell. What are you talking
He
about?
didn't need, but he cleaned himself up and he was able to get, like, he's so smart and clever that he did not need to be homeless for that long. That it is so
Disagree.
odd to me that like he's able to do
Big
that in
disagree.
an afternoon.
Yeah, I disagree. I think that talks
No,
about
why
trauma.
didn't you do that?
I think that's
people
eight
who
months
are really
ago.
smart.
The thing that he has that afternoon is something to go for. And like every point previous to that, he's only lost everything. And he doesn't, that's his consuming character trait. And he doesn't have any motivation to go for anything else in life. But then it
not
shifts.
starving?
And then you see him go, well, okay, but he's fair, I guess. But he's not starving to death. He's clearly alive, you know?
Yeah, that's something that bothers me as much. It's mainly just thematic issues and cool. His flaw is arrogance, right? Are we agreed upon there? Like that's the flaw.
That's the
That's
supposed
the flaw.
Yeah.
What's his
Cuckolding.
needed lesson in the book?
Cuckolding.
Yeah, and cuckolding. So what did he need to learn?
Well, but I mean, it's a 3-book story, you know, and like maybe there's still room for learning, you know, within the trilogy, right? Within that idea.
I think he needs to learn some tact with talking to people.
That's part of it. Yes. I mean, this is my theory. Okay, this is my in-head theory for justifying my dislike of it. Rothfuss wrote this book and had it all plotted out. And it says he took, 14 years to write the first book? And then another, or was it 7, then 7? Or how was it 14, then another? I think it was 14 years, yeah.
Supposedly, like, the lore in the beginning is that he pitched it as a complete trilogy, but it was too long, you know?
Yeah.
He said he had the whole trilogy written, but it was like, they were like, that's too much to go publish all in one book, you know?
Yes. And my in-head canon is that there was this finished book that he had. Like, the whole story was there. I have no idea if this is true. The whole story was there, and then he's so good at refining this and getting the right words chosen. He basically made the prose for all of the book as best as he possibly could before it's getting published. He refined, made no fat, no filler, cut it so that it was just sounded so good on the page. It's why you guys were able to get immersed, and oh my goodness, but didn't really change the story much. And just by the time he was so far deep into refining the prose, didn't want to change it anymore because the story's already. I think he just focused very little on the story of it and was more about the craft of the writing and didn't consider that as much. And it was his first book that he was right. I think it was his first book, his debut book. On top of that, and he was also much younger, so I just see a lot of quotes projecting, and not even like it's not even the Gary Stu thing that bothers me as much. It's not necessarily that he is powerful.
Going back that definition, it is frustrating. I did not care for there's one side character that I somewhat liked, and it was the little homeless girl.
Yeah,
Ari,
yeah, she was fun. She had personality, but everyone else just drained of all personality or intrigue with Quoth on the page. That was a bigger problem, and it makes him more Gary Stu like. Is like you don't notice a Gary Stu through them; it's more how other characters treat them, and I think it comes fairly close, but it's not the exact same. There are better examples of Gary Stews.
As he's looking, I do think it's interesting. Like, I read it around the time it came out in 2007. And I was a lot younger, you know? And I think that that's an influence, too. Whereas, had I read it 3 years ago, like you guys did, maybe it wouldn't have landed as well, you know? But...
Possibly.
I'm trying to find. Where did you find that quote again? I'm not going to reread the quote. Just where was that? What section of the book?
Let me find it for you.
Yeah, just if you don't mind finding it, because it really is a simple thing about it. It's not like where is that?
What'd you say, ZB?
What's that?
Please do not reread the cut quote.
Yeah.
Please
The
No,
quote is
we're
kinda
not going to
strange.
reread that.
Read it really slowly, staring at the camera.
Actually, do you want me
Lick your
to?
lips
You can
a
put
little
that in.
Yeah, just the full screen. Just switch to only the face.
Never has a
Zoom
book
in on
gone
the
down a
lips.
full star from one paragraph before.
Yeah. It was fun in that video the way you were convincing Rich to drop lower and lower each time. You know.
Had to, yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Which is this?
90.
Okay, got it. I'm not here to read that, but then this is the part that I have an issue with too. It's this.
What part are you looking for?
There it is. Okay. Yeah.
You gonna share with the class?
I'm just making
Just
sure I'm at the
enjoying
right
it.
place.
He loves the writing so much.
It's
Yeah,
so
he's-
good.
He's just reading it.
He's just enjoying it on his
You
own.
might read it out loud.
Yeah, this is. I'm so right. Oh my god.
So good.
Okay, here's the portion after that. Okay, I think this is correct. Maybe I'm wrong here.
Yeah. you are.
After that portion happens, the whole like touch me, right? Okay, now it's this. Jeff me right
are we
now.
back to
Okay.
talking about Aragorn?
Jeff is being meant so much shit.
I mean, anything you want. Yeah.
Oh
I'm here for
man.
you.
Okay. Occasionally, I would talk about Denna with Willem and Simon. Being true friends, they gave me sensible advice and compassionate sympathy in roughly equal amounts. The compassion I appreciated, but the advice was worse than useless. They urged me toward the truth, told me to open my heart to her, to pursue her, write her poetry, send her roses. Roses. They didn't know her. Despite the fact that I hated them, Denna's men taught me a lesson that I might never have learned otherwise. What you don't understand, I explained to Simon one afternoon as we sat under the pennant pole, is that men fall for Denna all the time. Do you know that do you know what that's like for her? How tiresome it is? I am one of her few friends. I won't risk that. I won't throw myself at her. She doesn't want it. Sorry, I won't add that into it. And then I will not be the one of the 100 cow-eyed suitors who go mooning after her like love-struck sheep. I just don't understand what you see in her, Sim said carefully. I know she's charming, fascinating, and all that, but she seems rather... He hesitated. Cruel. I nodded. She is. Simon watched me expectantly and finally said, What? No defense of her? No. Cruel is a good word for her, but I think you are saying cruel and thinking something else. Denna is not wicked or mean or spiteful. She is cruel. Sim was quiet for a long while before responding. I think she might be some of those other things and cruel as well. Good, honest, gentle Sim. He could never bring himself to say a bad thing about another person, just imply them. Even that was hard for him. He looked up at me. I talked with Savoy. He's still not over her. He really loved her, treated her like a princess. He would have done anything for her, but she left him anyway, no explanation. Denna is a wild thing, I explained, like a hind or a summer storm. If a storm blows down your house or breaks a tree, you don't say the storm was mean, it was cruel. It acted according to its nature, and something, unfortunately, was hurt. The same is true of Denna. What's hind? A deer. I thought that's what was a hart. A hind is a female deer, a wild deer. Do you know how much good it does? Okay, yada, yada. But it got to the point of that. It keeps going a little bit further, but that section after says the cringy stuff of like having the dialogue with the friends about who is Denna and him like teaching his friends like, no, you don't understand. This is what Denna is. Denna is this. Denna is this wild thing. And it feels like what I'm taking away from this is supposed to be how, hey, reader, don't worry. There's that girl out there. Look, there's that person out there that's just a wild thing, and you might deserve her. She just doesn't realize she wants you yet. She doesn't realize that you're good enough yet. So just wait and prowl while she has boyfriends, but she'll come to you at the end of the day. Just be there, be the friend so you can swipe in when all the coast is clear, because you're the real love. You really deserve it.
And
Not-
ultimately,
Okay, so
she doesn't
what-
know what she's doing. She's this
she-
wild
She's
thing
not smart enough
to
yet.
not be tamed or
Yeah.
controlled. Like, she just does things, and it's not really her fault. She doesn't have this agency.
So I think I enjoyed the book a lot more because I never thought of Quoth as a dating coach,
Yeah, I feel like I read it a very different way when I read that. I'm like, okay, Quoth is a bit nuts, and he's in love and not thinking clearly, and his friends are kind of like, dude, you're going a bit crazy, and like to me, he's clearly off the rails there. Like that's how I read it, not necessarily as Rothfuss is sending this message, more that he's like Quoth is still crazy for her even after all that time, and he's not. It's not a good thing.
The only problem I have with that is because it's the frame narrative, we do get instances with Quoth talking about how his arrogance or his stupidity, like he does
he's still
comment
in love with her in the frame narrative. He hasn't changed his mind. He still feels the same way, I think.
Yeah. And so that's the problem, is like, okay, the interjects and gives us the reader of like, oh, hey, a little nod of this is Quoth needs to learn this lesson one day. And with that, it's played up to this dramatic level of it, not just the cringy lines, but yet with both Quoth in the past and present day explaining it and giving no hint of like,
here's the hint.
I don't know how else I'm supposed to take it.
Here's the key hint of taking away. Usually the focus and the person who gets the monologue is the message. Quoth is the person who gets to explain exactly who Denna is and explain his feelings. Like the friends give a flippant like question just so it can set up Quoth explaining exactly who Denna is and exactly what the reader should impart from this. So to me, it comes in like they don't give the friends like this backup of like, wait, Denna, like all they get to say is, oh, I think she's cruel, right? And kind of hesitates, isn't she cruel? And he accepts that. He goes, yes, she's cruel, but she's more than that. So it's like the takeaway I get is who gets the stage. Who does the author give the stage to?
There's an interesting point later on in the book. I don't know if it's in which one it's in, where Bast kind of says that he met her too, and she had a crooked nose or something like that. And that's what he got away with.
That's the name of the one.
So I think within the frame narrative, you also get this sense of like everybody. Bast is just like, yeah, I mean, she was fine, but like she's pretty, but she had a crooked nose. Like she's nothing crazy special, but he's still in love with her there. So I don't know if I take it as a specific message. I think it's just kind of, that's the story. Like, I don't know.
Maybe we interpret it differently then.
Jeff, I don't think you guys are supposed to think Koth is right.
Exactly.
I think you guys are supposed to think Koth is wrong.
I don't know. I mean, it is more just confirmed by seeing this is before I saw this, but Patrick Rothfuss himself, like talking about the book and saying that Denna was based on somebody. And
just personal life stuff. Like, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure
we're not wrong.
But hey, we could be.
Patrick Rothfuss is wrong too, but that doesn't make Koth right. That just makes Patrick Rothfuss think that Koth is right, whereas all five of us agree that Koth is wrong. So fuck what Patrick Rothfuss thinks. I don't know. That doesn't take away my enjoyment from the book. I still think the same thing.
Well, take it this way: of like, which interpretation is that? Do you think that? So you guys think that the message here at the end of it is like Quoth is in the wrong?
I don't
That's
think
your
there's a
takeaway.
message. I wouldn't say there's.
Do you think he's wrong? Is this book presenting Quoth as wrong about Denna? Like, what are we supposed to take away?
I wouldn't say yes or no.
Well, I do like
Presenting maybe
everyone
not, but
else
it's
is
like-
telling Quoth that he's wrong. Everyone else in the story is like, Quoth, like this is not a good move. You know?
I mean, if we were to talk
So is
about
that your
Lolita,
takeaway?
like the narrator of Lolita thinks that he's right?
Mhm.
Even though we all know the book even presents him as right. I don't think the author does, but the book does. And that guy's a fucking pedophile. We're not supposed to walk away thinking, damn, pedophilia rules. We're supposed to think, damn, pedophiles are fucked up. So in this instant, Koth is kind of morally gray, right? Like he's this weirdo cock kind of incel predator almost with Denna. But
Yeah.
you're not supposed to celebrate that. But he's not fully like this, Logan Nine Fingers evil character either. He's this complex, nuanced guy,
Yeah, I take it completely differently. Where I think you had something.
I think you could take that even off the table, and he's still just not very, at least for us, not a very enthralling character. And so I wasn't really that interested in him as a character, especially when he went off to school. Became very boring to me. I was far more interested in the world and the plot of like, okay, this is leading to something. Like, okay, the Legend of the King Killer. What are we gonna get? What there's building towards something. There's stuff in the background. Okay, what's going on?
Also,
And then we get that ending as a plot of like, man, what a letdown. Is that, and the point being, hey, look at all these legends. Actually, the legends are false. It's actually a lot more mundane.
and a
I
background,
don't want to read another story about like, hey, all this
Not
cool
all the
shit was
legends.
actually lame.
a background of that too is with Quoth, at least in this book. I think it's more of a tragedy. Like Quoth is seen as a tragedy.
Yeah.
Like he is. The girls like him after he does the fire scene, and like you see the girls goggling over him. Everybody except the one he wants. And Ruffus also says he was inspired by Cyrano de Bergerac, the play movie, which we ended up watching too. And being inspired off of that play, like part of that play's message as well is looking at the guy who has literally a long nose, and crooked nose in this book, which he gets the direct inspiration from, I'm sure, who ends up not being with the girl, and it's a tragedy for him not having the love of his life. And it's a lot of his like because, yeah, go ahead. Yep.
There are theories that Denna is actually supposed to be is Sarah de Bergerac,
Mhm.
because of the crooked nose thing, that
Yeah.
she's actually the one that considers herself hideous and unlovable. And that's why she does all these things and why she won't actually accept Quoth's love. So, as a role reversal. I've heard that. That theory, but which I think makes it a lot worse in the sense of then Quoth is like the perfect person that is being, but that's beside the point.
Beside the point, yeah. That's we're talking about the same thing. We obviously don't like it because we take that theme from it and don't like him as a character. But that's why. That's really it. It's kind of simple, but we like to talk about it a lot because it's fun. There's not much more to it.
I think we disagree with your takeaways, but we can never disagree. Like you say, you didn't like the characters of the book. Right, man, that's your opinion. Like I DNF Red Rising, whereas I intend to go back. But,
what was
if
the
I said I
point for you
didn't
that
like it, like we could
Yeah,
talk
where-
about
where'd you
certain
DNF it?
aspects of the book.
Yep.
Like 100 pages in.
Okay, so you got into a
It's like-
hook. Like the hook was there, and you
It's
just
a
still
fair
dropped it.
book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I will go back. I hear like book 2 and book 3 are fucking incredible and all this, so I do intend to go back. But if I said, hey, I read it and I didn't like it, there's nothing you can really argue with.
Yeah.
If I said
No.
Darrow sucked, then we can get into it. But,
No,
you guys
the
didn't like the book,
interesting
right?
stuff
That's
about
totally
it is like
cool.
the interpretation, like how do people see it? Because obviously we don't see it the same, and that's the interesting part. It's like, where does that come across? How do you? And then that does come back to death of the author. Do you kill the author or not?
That is at least how we see it. Is it's for us to have a proper interpretation. You need both sides of, okay, what did the author think? What were the author intending to do? And then how was that received? And that's the dance. Because so you can receive it very different from the author.
Certainly, yes.
But to me, that's like an important question of, did a book succeed or fail? Of did I receive what the author was intending, and how well did that come across? Versus like the author can intend something and I can take it something completely different, have a good time, but ultimately the book the story kind of failed in what the author was trying to do. Like, because they intended one thing and they succeeded in the opposite. But I can still enjoy something that way. But I always find that that's important to at least investigate, like knowing what the author intended and then how you reacted to it. Both.
That's, I think, an interesting point. Wait, were you going to say something, Jeff?
Kind of. I mean, I think that's an interesting question going back to like the idea of illustration versus art. Of pure art, I think, and pure art in a sense, the artist will say one thing with it, but I think the part of it being art is that you might take something else completely different from it and still enjoy it. So I think some of it's just throwing thoughts at the wall in a sense of like all these ideas, and it's like, if you find something in there to enjoy it, that's great, and if not, not. And then the idea of illustration is like, it's intended to be enjoyed in this specific way. And
I feel like it's a starting point, because I mean, imagine that we were all talking about expectations before. If you're reading a book and you're expecting one genre just because of you looked at the cover one way, or it was described to you in some other form, and you thought you were getting a sci-fi, but actually it's a fantasy, and all of a sudden you're now disappointed because, I was expecting this. And so, but if you're not even trying to understand what the author's intending and you don't like it, you've set yourself up for failure. And I think that's an important aspect when trying to, that the way to get yourself the best chance for you to actually like a book is to accept what the author is intending. Try to figure that out. And then from there, like, okay, this is what it's intending, this is what it's going for. Try to judge it based on that, not my own expectations I'm putting onto the book.
I just disagree. This is going to be pedantical as fuck, but like, you can say the author failed in trying to deliver their message. Whereas there's a different conversation between, did the author fail and is the book a failure? Because if Patrick Rothfuss wrote Name of the Wind with the intent of like, damn, Koth is a hero and he's the man, he failed. That does not make Name of the Wind itself a failure. That's still a fucking electric book, right? Not for you guys, but for the vast majority of the world. Did Patrick Rothfuss fail? As is in his message, yeah, but the book itself is still a triumph. So this is pedantical, but that's why I don't really like the death of the author, especially going into a book knowing what the author intended. I think you saying you set yourself up for success. I think you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I think some of my favorite reading experiences, I knew nothing about the book going into it. My mother told me I would really like Project Hail Mary, and really liked The Martian, but I knew nothing about Project Hail Mary going into it, and I feel that's a better experience for that. But kind of going to the point I was making earlier about when you read the book, like having read it in 2007, I think there was less to know about Patrick. You know, he wasn't fucking on Twitch typing on a keyboard with no visual and just hearing the sound of a clicky click, which he's done sometimes in between. And of course he wasn't doing the charity stuff, you know. I read the book because a friend recommended it, and I knew nothing else. I knew nothing about Pat. I knew, you know, but there was a different experience, you know, than I guess what you had.
It's you don't need to know outside of the book about the author to focus on while reading the book, what is the author intending? What is the author trying to do? That's it, because that's just from the text. You can read into it, and then outside of the book, learning about what the author intends gives you more context. But you can still, there's a difference between just reading a book and projecting your own expectations on it versus trying to understand what the book's trying to say. Then from there, going, well, this is how I saw it. Well, I think this is
simply explain it. Like the difference, I think what you're saying, we've talked about this so much, where the death of the author is talking about how do you decipher the meaning of a text. It's not talking about the feeling of a text, just literally what does the text mean, or it's trying to say the death of the author is, do you need the author in order to determine what the text means objectively? Is there an objective truth to the text? And then, Rich, what you're talking about is every reader is going to have a feeling of, hey, did I like it? Did I not like it? No matter what the author intended, who cares, right? Take the author aside. What was our opinions on the book? We will all feel differently, and that is what we have. But the whole death of the author thing is about, does the text have an inherent source of authority on what it does mean? So to answer our question of what's the truth behind what was meant here, like, are we supposed to take Quoth's side or not? Who decides that? Well, death of the author would be, hey, we get to interpret and decide it. We would err more towards the side of, like, what was the author? What is the author trying to say here? Because what distinguishes an AI art from an artist's, for example, is if it's written by AI, who cares what the author thought? It is just a blank slate. It's just words on the page. There's no soul to it. It means nothing. Or did Patrick Rothfuss write that book? Did Z.B. Steele write that book? If you just kill us, then who cares? Let's give me more AI.
So
feed it to me. It means nothing.
Let me ask then, if the author goes out with the intent of writing a book with, I want to write about this theme, this idea,
Yes.
want to say this, and then accidentally through the process of writing stumbles into something else entirely, does that mean they failed? Because the soul is still there.
Yeah. No, I would say the failed thing too.
Gone awry.
Yeah, the whole fail thing too is like emotionally, hey, how do I feel? Do I like book or not? Like, take that aside of, like, did they fail to me or not? For them, it could be like, there's also like
the book could be that journey of, like, in the beginning of the book, they thought one way and they were trying to do something, and through the discovery of the characters, they went a different direction with it. That's perfectly possible. But
take Dune, the first book of Dune, where his intent, we know, is more so he wanted to make that a warning against these figures. But a lot of people took away and were like, oh, look at Paul Atreides as hero. And he's like, wait. I wanted people to be warned about that. Holy crap. I didn't want people looking at Paul Atreides to, like, hold on, let me write a book too now. That's like the whole colloquial thing that's understood. Now, did he write a damn good book? Yeah. But it also, to find the inherent meaning, you know, it's like looking at a historical text of, if we just find some script from 1000 BC and then we just see the text, we're going to have a significant less understanding of that work just because all we have is the text. If we understand who's the author, what was the culture at the time, what did that word mean?
Depending on where they were located and at what time it was written, the same word then means something very different from what it means today. And so that context matters. You look at, I think a very simple one is to say, liberal. Liberal in America means one thing. Liberal in the rest of Europe,
like UK,
means something else.
Yeah.
Like they are very much different words and have different meanings. And so I would want to, if I read that word, well, I'll have a better understanding of what the author's trying to tell me if I know where they're from.
And the thing is my interpretation of that word more correct than the author's? Well, no, the author's the one that said it, right? So the point is, like, when we're talking about Name of the Wind here, you guys can all give it 5 stars. That the feeling's great, and like we can give it our 1-5 and go, like we could do that all day long. But the interesting thing about us, about when looking at it, is okay. Here's how we feel about it. What was the author trying to accomplish, just so we could see, like, did it land what they were trying to do or not? Whether they did, like, that's the curious thing of how can we find through the text, what were they trying to, what was their soul in the story? That's all we're saying when we work around this. This doesn't mean to say, like, hey, you guys are,
To wrap it all together, ZB, do you think that a book exists on its own? That once an author has written it, like the book is its own thing. In the Nebulous, it is disconnected from the author. Or do you believe that a book is just the author's words? That a book is more like a conversation with a reader? That the author is telling you something and then you are receiving it? How do you view a story?
The first one, and I think that's kind of the crux of our disagreement. And like, 'cause I love this conversation. Which, by the way, I think this is super interesting. And I would love to talk to you guys for like 6 hours at a bar somewhere about this.
Well, if you guys got to go,
Ready
sorry,
Player
we love this stuff. This is awesome. Yeah,
This
I'm
is
here.
great.
I'm
I
here.
adore this conversation. Like, it's not heated, but it is like interesting and debate heavy. So I just want to be very clear. Like, I love this conversation. But take, for example, Ready Player One. That book is kind of about accepting everybody and blah blah and kumbaya and blah blah blah, right? That dude's a bigot. Does that make the book like not, inspiration heavy and something that I would read to my own kids? No, I don't know. I don't give a fuck what that guy thinks. I'm just gonna read the
well,
book.
that's interesting. But so the death of the author is different from separating the art versus the artist. Like, so the death of the author is more about the meaning of the text, from my understanding here, and then the separating the art versus artist is, like, for example, a Hitler painting. How much was his hate of the Jews in that painting? Well, probably very little, right? Because it's separating. Okay, I could separate the fact that he did awful things. Well, some can, some can't. You don't have to like everything.
Yeah.
You can decide,
rather
hey, I
have
don't
a-
want to read this person. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But
Take a Bob Ross over a Hitler, please.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
But like, you can, like, somebody could be a bad person. You could read it and still like it. But how much of that?
I don't want to get into that. That's a whole other 4-hour thing.
Oh yeah. No, all I mean is, like, if you're a bad,
like,
yeah. Like the only point I mean with that, just to finish this. Oh,
yeah. You got it.
yeah. Just the last point with that is that, like, if somebody's a bad person, like the way I would read a book, for example, of like if somebody is a bad person, how much is that art, their soul of that story? Basically, what does that text mean? What is the author saying in that text versus what qualm do I have with them? Does it affect that work? Like, I could still watch Chinatown and love it, even though Polanski's a piece of shit, right? Just because I don't think his immoral character impacted that art when he was telling us that kind of thing. Yeah.
Compare that to American Gods and what's
Neil Gaiman.
Neil
Yeah,
Gaiman.
yeah.
I think there's the thing that makes Neil Gaiman kind of a piece of shit directly affects the story in American Gods. Like, it is harder to separate those two versus Roman Polanski and Chinatown. So they are related, but not always the same. It's the same thing of there's a great story and I really liked the it's the Western movie. It's probably the best.
The Django Unchained by
Nope.
Not
Django Unchained. It's the movie with
Good, Bad, Ugly.
Nope. I can get there.
Let me just throw more quotes.
The Clint
Story
Eastwood
3.
movie about Jesus.
Zootopia 2 in theaters.
Gladiator.
Blazing Saddles. Blazing Saddles.
What the hell?
Are you talking about the newer one from like 2008?
No, hold on.
Which one are you talking about?
Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Are we still there? Can you still hear us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're good.
Star
Star Wars.
Mandalorian?
Wait, Firefly. Space Western.
It's where Clint Eastwood is a Confederate soldier. What?
The Beguiled?
Oh, there's apparently multiple. I did not know that there were multiple. That's Josie Wales. There we go.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay.
The outlaw Josie Wales.
Okay. I've never seen it.
what's great about it in particular is the action. So that's a wonderful story about people from different backgrounds ultimately fleeing from where their home to make a new society, and because they've always been on the oppressed side of wherever group they're from home, that they have come together and actually protect each other, about found family, overcoming bigotry, all this stuff. Fantastic. However, the actual author of this book is the same guy that wrote the speech during the civil rights, before the civil rights era, of segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. That is the speechwriter. Like, this guy is a Ku Klux Klan member, and the story behind it, there's a bit of mystery behind it. But at one point, the guy just disappeared, and no one where he went. He changed his name, and so is that book, because it's so well written, is that a story of someone who is a bigot, a Ku Klux Klan member that changed his mind, and something happened to him in his life that he rejected that? And who better to tell a story of overcoming your own personal bigotry than that guy? If that is the genuine truth. He always denied he was ever the same person, but it's basically confirmed. But that gives so much context to it. It's always just a little aside that I think that elevates that material so much. And you have to ask the question,
read that now.
is he genuine? Did he genuinely change? Or is it...
I've only ever seen the movie, but I do want to read it. But to get back to your original question, Rich, of a book comes out, is it now its own entity, its own life form, whatever, or does it have kind of an umbilical cord to the author? Ready Player One, in my mind, is a perfect example of a book where it's like the author wrote a book that was anti-bigotry and then is now this raging bigot. Does his opinion, and I don't want to make this separating the art from the artist, I'm just talking about the umbilical cord versus is it its own thing? Ready Player One is its own thing, in my opinion.
Is that Stephen King, by the way?
Death of the Artist.
No.
No? Who's Ready Player One?
No, what's his name?
I don't have the book. So.
Okay.
Either way, it's getting to be midnight, so I think I'm starting to ramble and not make as much coherent sense. But
no, I kind of agree with you.
Yeah, I think our core crux of the disagreement, which I have greatly enjoyed this disagreement, is that the book is its own entity, and the author's opinion or what he intended doesn't impact me as an individual hardly at all. So I think that does impact you guys.
Why is a novel different than an essay? Why is it different than a historical text? Why is it different from a nonfiction? Why is a fiction book different than a nonfiction book? Because it seems like it's now in its own category, that you put a fiction story, a novel, that it is treated differently than every other form of narrative. Why is that?
In terms of
the
separating it a little bit?
Novel is to be entertained, is to enjoy the story. That's kind of the premise, right? Like, if a book is profound but the story sucks, it's not going to get readers. Whereas an essay, its whole point is to convince you of the worldview. A nonfiction is to enlighten you. That's not a novel's point in existence. If someone said, I love Dungeon Crawl Carl and it greatly inspired me to live my life in a different way, that's totally fine. Most people aren't reading DCC to be enlightened, right? They're just looking for a good time.
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
I have an interesting thought here, guys. Because I'm wondering, how much does the message of what you're reading, so even, let's say, an essay or a novel, how much does the message affect how much you like the book? Because for me, it's pretty much zero. Because I could completely disagree with it, but if it's engaging to me, I think it can be, it's top tier. As long as to me, I don't need to think it's a good thing or positive, or as long as it's interesting. I can completely disagree with the premise or the message of the author and still rate it a 10.
I can disagree as long as I don't have to agree with the message, as long as it's at least interesting, or it makes me, especially, I'll give a 5 out of 5 score to a book that I may disagree with, as long as it made me think. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't think of it that way.
to me, I feel like this whole thing with Dana, when I first read that made me think a lot. And especially as somebody who, I mean, when as a 15-year-old, kind of was a little bit like Quoth in that way, and got past that. It was very, very interesting. Yeah, thank God.
Yeah.
But definitely somebody who got completely past that and like had realized that how stupid that was and blind. But it's a very interesting topic to me to think about. And even if I disagree with Rothfuss, even if Rothfuss intended it to be, Quoth is good and right in this way, it was very engaging to me.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Because for like when we're talking about themes, at least on our scale, thought provokingness, it's hey, did it change or reinforce your opinion on something? Like that's always the options. And then how compelling was it told? So for example, we're clearly talking about Name of the Wind in a way of when we read it, it was like immediate disregard. Like I think So for us, it's just like I disagree with it, and it doesn't even challenge me at all for what I think, especially at the time we're reading it. Right, it's all dependent on a lot.
Definitely.
Like Nick was saying,
I read it pretty young too.
Yeah. So that definitely affects a lot of it. So a lot of it for us is how much does that, even if I hard disagree with it, does it make a compelling argument? A compelling thing that, man, even though I disagree, I really have to think through my own psyche to be like, why do I disagree with it, or what have you?
Well, and I don't necessarily think that Quoth is presenting a convincing argument for it. I just think it's interesting that it's compelling to me that he thinks that so strongly. That's what's interesting to me about it.
Yeah, we didn't find it as interesting. And maybe it's just the feeling of the book, which goes back to as well of anybody could feel however we want about this stuff. I'd be curious of, I'm sure you guys have heard the thought experiment. But take like one of your books, right? Like if your book instead of your book, like what's the difference between reading your book with your author like Z.B. Steele, or take Shakespeare? Is there any difference between reading Shakespeare, reading any book, versus having infinite monkeys on a typewriter? If you guys have heard of this, like let's say there's infinite monkeys in a room, and they eventually put together Shakespeare. They put together your identical Z.B. Steele, your book. Is that monkey's book the same as yours?
Good fucking question. That shuts on my
That
argument.
was Sanderson's point, right? Because like when you talk to Sanderson, he was saying, no, the monkeys can't make art because they don't have intent.
Right.
Yep.
Well, with ZB Steele, let's say we get infinite monkeys, infinite times
shuts on my
hypothetical,
argument.
and they were
It shits
letter for
It's
letter.
monkeys throwing their shit at your argument.
But letter for letter, they accidentally type your exact book. What is yours and theirs the same? Now, if it's just textually based, yes. If the author matters, no.
That's a good question. It is
I'll
midnight.
add
I
on
need
to
to think
that.
about that.
Okay. I'm sorry. I just wanted to bully him a little bit.
You're also a 3. You're also
You
a
also
3.
look a little bit like one.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
Yeah, I do got to bail there. My Wi-Fi. I'm on phone data right now because my Wi-Fi was acting up, and I'm getting warning messages left and right. So I do have to bail soon in the next like 5 to 10 minutes. But
Thanks for letting us hang this long, because we like, man, we finally get to talk with other people. It's cool.
Dude, this conversation's been fantastic. I love when I'm proven wrong, because your point about the monkeys is a good fucking point, right?
I'll leave you with this as well.
I don't know how to answer that with
if your book is going to be translated into a different language, how do you want your translator to read your book?
Do you want them to ask for your intent? What did you mean by that, or just textually? Anyways, again, it's we.
That's really good points. But my knee jerk when you were asking about does the book live on its own, or is the author attached to it? My knee jerk was it lives on its own, and like my thought, and I would be interested to hear like down the road, Austin, as you publish, if your thought changes a little bit, but because my book here, Shattered, one of the like the best review I have of it, like the guy was talking about how the political intrigue I talk about in the story really felt poignant for our times, and I wrote the first draft well before our times now. You know, and like so there was a interpretation from the reader that I didn't necessarily intend. So like that was something they put into the book, not me. You know.
Yeah, that's what art does.
And that was
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's totally valid. But it's like, again, that comes back to the feeling. Like someone felt that and got that across. but that's not the case without you intending something. Like the fact that you wrote that, they would have never felt that in the first place if you didn't conjure some story based on all of your experience and your life's work to write that specific story. And they were only able to make that interpretation because something human and soulful about it touched them in a way that their life experience were poured into the book. We're not saying that can't happen. It's just more so, it's the hard stance death that the author takes, is that literally don't take the context, history, thoughts, opinion. Author, disregard author. It is just the text, which is then the arguments we've been making about AI, et cetera. It's more so like that's great for people to have different interpretations, feelings, and takeaways. We're just saying that, like, when it comes to The Name of the Wind or something, completely, what is your opinion? What do you feel about the book is 100% valid. But then also, like, what does the text mean, to have like a full, if we're going to be critical and think about the book, well, what was the author going for? So when that person talks with you and goes, hey, this is what I got out of it. And obviously you can't, when they finish your book and can't talk to you, this isn't a dialogue you can always have, but they would go, hey, this is what I got out of it. You're like, oh, great. I didn't even like think of that. Like, I was going for this. And then, like, that completes the full picture of the book to us. It's, you were going for something and somehow it touched someone this way. Like, in the same way, maybe the way it touched them in that way is, for example, I could read a book about, The Love You Forever, the children's book we were just mentioning earlier about a mom. Maybe I never had a mom. I only had a dad, but I still experienced love. Like, you touched on the theme of love, or you touched on this thing that transcended, even though it was written before this time, it's that core theme that you both shared, which allowed him to interpret it in this new way. So, like, hey, maybe I never had a mother, but I had a grandma. I've experienced that human emotion. And through words and your experiences, you were able to touch somebody in a way, because you've never lived their exact life, but it's that core thing still touched them somehow. And it's things like, maybe that's a part. Yeah. Anyways,
that book hits different every stage of your life too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's lovely. Yes. And I'm sure the person that wrote that, like, maybe they wrote it as a mother, or I don't know, but I cried about it as a kid. Now, I'm sure the thought in mind was also for a child, but they're writing from the experience of a mom, but it could still touch me and I could feel it's the death of the author thing. We could literally talk about it for days, because we know, like, you guys are in the majority opinion as well. Like, everybody dogs us for this. We come with like a defense that we really believe this. This is our honest thought, but we know it's like in the 3%, to stay with the number 3 of people that think this. You're in good company.
Yeah. To me, it adds
not
spice
that the people
to
that
it.
pay us are good company. But.
I think the author, what the author thinks about things adds a lot of spice to it. For me, it's been a really interesting thing reading like Mistborn, at realizing that Brandon Sanderson is religious, and that dealing with the atheism and belief, and in a lot of his books is dealing with that, and that adds a bit of interest to it. Of, he's really thinking through atheism as someone who isn't. That makes it much more interesting to me.
Jeff, for you and art in general, like, what do you think of modern art? What do you think, of like looking at a square?
Well, I find it a bit silly at times.
ZB really needs to go.
Okay.
Thanks,
ZB,
bud.
pleasure.
I'll do my outro. Yeah, dude, this was so much
Yes.
fun. This was a lot of fun. I really want to
Thank
go
you
on
for
your
having us.
show or have y'all back. Yeah,
Yeah.
that monkey point fucking rocked me. And I like getting rocked. So,
Our goal
I'm gonna
every
go to bed thinking
podcast
about
we have
that.
is always 2 hours of fun, then 1 hour of thinking, and then leave.
I do got to bail. This was so much fun. If you guys like Christopher Rocchio, Joe Abercrombie, Patrick Rothfuss, so you guys can ignore that last name. Buy my books. They're on Amazon. Whispers of the Storm, Inkling of Flame. I am Austin and Rich's best friend, and I have their full support in saying all these words, so they will co-sign it. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for being here, and I will talk to y'all later.
See ZB. I'll also co-sign it.
See
We
ya.
gave him a hard enough time.
Go read his books.
Go read his books
Go buy
now.
them now.
Give me a rating.
Or
rating
have
of solid
AI
3.
recreate it.
The official rating for ZB is solid 3.
All right,
so
Jeff. Go Jeff yourself.
That's his last word. I love it.
the interesting thing, something about art. You
We
asked
were
a
saying
question.
modern art,
Oh,
and an interesting thing about.
Yeah, I'm an illustrator, so I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm an artist in terms of like fine art, and so I don't really resonate with. I go to like modern art galleries, and I'm just like,
You don't consider yourself an artist, Jeff?
yeah, but let's say on a scale of illustration to fine, like art as in the purest form of like the bougie kind of like, this is what I made and you will like it or you will hate it, like that kind of thing. That's the whole world of art where it's like, I made this and it means something to me, it can mean something to you, but if not, like, fuck you. That's kind of fine art. And I'm making art to sell a product of books. So obviously I like what I do, but I feel like I'm lucky in doing that. There's a lot of illustrators who would rather not be doing what they're doing and would rather illustrate or create other things. So I'm much more on the creating for a purpose of communicating the feel of the
How
story,
badass a book
the
is.
feel of the book.
Right.
That's what's cool to
Right.
me.
Right.
So I actually, I land more on the side of I enjoy the more kind of storytelling and intricate art more than the kind of modern art.
Well, the biggest problem with modern art, and I think this is at least how I view all art, its purpose is to share a bit of the artist's soul within the medium that they chose.
Oof.
Now, if it is a song,
Well, then
I should be able to I should get a feeling of that person's soul through song alone. I can learn, they can tell me about it afterward. I can, they can explain the origin of that song afterward, but the song succeeds or fails based on the feeling that I get through that medium. Same thing with modern art. The reason why I have a problem with most of it is the only way to understand most modern art is to actually read an essay that the artist wrote about
that's
it.
a good way, because it's supposed to not be like that. It's supposed to be that you should you should be able to look at this red square and you should have your own
100%.
interpretation of it. But I think it's so vague to the point that you don't get anything. Like, to me, I'm just like, I'm looking at this, I'm like, I guess I could maybe see that this looks like anger or whatever, but I don't get that. And there should be something. It's got to be. So I think the song thing is good because it can be very emotional, like kind of chords and whatever, but unless it's catchy, I'm not going to listen to it. At least a little bit, right? And so I think art has to be catchy a little bit.
Totally. It's about trying to express something. And if you require a different medium for someone to understand your art, you have failed.
Exactly. That's a great way of saying it.
That's to me of like, that is the failure of art. If your book requires an interview to understand it, you've probably failed. Like, in general, like, that's, if your art requires a different medium to see it, then that's the failure. That's why most modern physical art, I think, fails, because you look at it and it's so vague that someone can look at it and feel something. Like, people can have their own feeling about it, but I would never guess in a million years what the artist was actually trying to say.
That's a great way of putting it. Yeah, exactly how I feel.
So, again, that kind of goes back into the death of the author, and that whole point of the beauty of art is through their words, I can understand something about them. And I can understand something that they're trying to tell me and say. And yeah, I would say a book kind of fails, even if I really liked it. If an author fails when they can't actually get the reader to understand them. Like, if nothing comes across the way they were intending, they've probably failed. Even if they stumbled into something really funny, or they stumbled into something that people enjoy.
Okay,
sure.
Well, what do you think Joe Abercrombie's saying in the First Law then? Because I don't know if that's the kind of it's a point what I get from the First Law, and what makes it hilarious and awesome to me is at the end of the day, there's no it's like there's no point to it, and that's why there's no the big part, like a whole book too. There's no point to it in a big way, and that's very interesting to me and just awesome, but it doesn't need to be a message per se.
I think book one is a little different in the sense of, I think a book one's about perspective and tension, showing you that different characters. So the reason why I like the plot is because it is showing different characters, and through their own puzzle piece, and they don't know what the truth is and what to expect, and the reader only does, because they're seeing all the different perspectives. And I think, like, not knowing the whole truth is, you get to take the omnipresent point of view, and that's the fun ride of life, is you don't have you don't know every piece, you don't know everything going on around you, and so things can seem random, and so the chaos of life is because of your perspective on it.
Well, Abercrombie's it's the anti-traditional fantasy. It's the point is the pointlessness of it. And that, I mean, some will say nihilistic, but more of a probably existential, maybe is the correct word. Of meanings what you make of it. We're kind of in this hard world, and that's his point is hey, you have your heroes. What about you can't change the world. The world exists and you have to live in it. Baez is this force that no matter how much agency you want to take, Giselle, you're not standing up. Baez had his plan already. Mm-hmm. Your choices are pretty limited and insignificant, and like, hey, you could try, but no. Well, we are who we are. We're creatures of habits, and we just will. Logan will go back to Loganing, and so have you. It's a cycle.
Yeah,
I think that's a lot of the message that's came out. And some people
fair.
Find that thought provoking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if I find it. I find it funny. I'm a bit of a nihilist myself, so I think it's definitely nihilistic.
Yeah,
I'd say I'm a hopeful nihilist in my personal life, at least. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had a whole conversation about that on the Patreon where some were saying, "Is it nihilistic? Is it just cynical? Is it existential? Like, what's the correct term?"
Nihilistic, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I would lean that way as well. I would definitely lean that way. It's just more so, is it, is Glocta's twisted meaning what he makes of it? Is that where it makes it existential? But yeah, I tend to agree as well. But that's interesting. When we were talking to Joe and talking about what the themes were in his books, he doesn't seem to care as much. He's like, I guess it's this and that, but it's whatever.
Yeah, I don't think he's thinking about the themes. I think it just kind of comes out.
Yeah, that's what he told us. Is it more develops? It develops from the characters and the story that he's telling.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there is a theme. It's just he doesn't start the book.
It's just he's a nihilist, so he just writes nihilism.
So clearly, Infinite Monkeys could write an Abercrombie book. That's what we're.
It'd take 2 monkeys. I mean, that's it.
At least 2.
At least 2. And Joe would agree with that.
No more.
Honestly, right. We should have taken him in that anthology, but we still got a great one. We got a great one with Rockio, Erickson, Hyperion, and then we just gotta
do all the work.
To the grindstone.
Do a lot of work. Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Wow.
All right, gentlemen. I feel like clearly we could keep going on all night, but I have to work tomorrow, so that's not really an option.
This was
unless
so fun.
I want to get a whole lot of Patreon supporters really fast. Then
wink, wink,
wink, wink. Thank you, Rich and Austin. I think probably our audience already knows where to follow you, but just for the guy that doesn't yet, where can they find and follow Two to Ramble?
Take a look on youtube.com and search Two to Ramble. The number 2, then T-O, Ramble.
There you go.
Same thing on all other platforms.
Yes.
Nice. Jeff, where's the best place to follow you?
JeffBrownGraphics.com or Instagram at JeffBrown_graphics.
Heck yeah.
And you can find all my links at NicholasWFuller.com. This has been a blast. We definitely got to hang out more, do something like this again. Yeah. Jeff, ZB had to go. Austin, Rich, thank you all. Thank all the listeners. If no one's told you today, you're an absolute legend.